One of the newest additions to the Force of Chaos in recent years is a being known as Vashtorr the Arcavist, a being that isn't tied to one of the four main Chaos gods and has dominion over the machinery that dwells within the war. But what if I were to tell you that there could be a connection to Vashtorr being something far, far older than we may initially think, from a time when hungry star gods roamed and a race known as the Necrons was still irradiated flesh and blood. But, as always, before we dive in, I'd just like to mention that if you like what I do here, then just let me know by simply giving it a like. Comment down below on what you think of this video. Obviously, it's a bit too late, or rather a bit too early to kind of know of yet, but, you know, save the comment for later on towards the end of the video. And if you're new, welcome aboard, and don't forget to click that subscribe button. Also, you may notice that the quality of the video today is slightly better, actually. So I have been given the gift of a new microphone. So hopefully my voice is a lot clearer and less tinny than before. And hope you guys all enjoy. So, with all that out of the way with, let's dive into this rather strange theory. So Vashtorr was first brought to us during the Arcs of Omen series during the later end of 9th edition, I do believe. I don't think it was 10th. But it was around 9th edition, and he is a man, well, being of bargains and contracts. So whenever Vashtorr makes a bargain to Chaos Lords that want to go to him to gain Forged Fiends and Soul Grinders, Helldrakes, that kind of horrible monstrosity machinery for Chaos, then he makes a bargain with him and a contract, and whoever goes to him must swear complete loyalty only to Vashtorr. And if Vashtorr ever needs of them to defend his nightmarish Forge world from the rest of Chaos, then they need to answer the call. Vashtorr is for the most part, quite a reasonable and neutral Chaos entity. And during his conversations with Abaddon, it is then revealed that he is old enough to recount the tales of the War in Heaven, which, to those of you that don't know, occurred over 65 million years ago in the galaxy. This was a time period of apocalyptic beyond understanding. It even made the Horus Heresy look like a school ground scuffle between children. It was beyond reckoning. It was such a mad time. And it was a time where colossal star gods with the power to snuff out suns with just a mere whim battled against the ancient life-giving old ones for galactic control, as well as many other things as well. Won't go too into detail with the War in Heaven. I may do later if those of you that are watching are thinking, what the heck is the War in Heaven? Then let me know in the comments. I can try and do a bit of a lore coverage on the War in Heaven, because it's very interesting. It's very interesting indeed. So there are many star god entities, most of them actually surviving to this day in the form of shards, but not all of them were known, and they seem to follow the basic fundamentals of the universe. So you have light, death, fire, hunger, etc. So given the advanced technological power of the Necrons that they had at the time of the War in Heaven, they may have created another fundamental element to the universe in the form of mechanical creation. However, there is one known star god that we do know of that fits the idea of sort of mechanical creation and machinery very perfectly. And that is the Void Dragon. So the Void Dragon of Mars is heavily rumoured to be a star god, or Catan in the Necron dialect. And it was imprisoned beneath Mars by the Emperor way back in the day as a part of his plan to create what would become the Tech Priesthood of Mars. The being's thoughts, dreams and powers seeped into the minds of the Martians and created the cult Mechanicum. But what if not all of it was imprisoned? What if there was only a large collection of shards that the Emperor had trapped, and the rest has been drifting in the void and swallowed? up by the warp. So if we're running with this theory that the Emperor had actually trapped a large portion of the Void Dragon, and not all of it, and some of it had drifted into the void and was swallowed up by the warp, then this large piece of the Void Dragon would most likely become somewhat corrupted after a unmeasurable amount of time within the warp. As we know that time flows very, very differently in the warp and doesn't really abide to the normal realms of time as we know it in reality, in the real world. So I say somewhat corrupted. So I don't think that you could have corrupted Chaos Necrons, but I think that being around the energies of the warp would have perhaps altered or changed the C'tan's perspective and sort of judgment on things to a bit of a degree. So it would be slowly twisting and contorting, just floating within the warp, leaking its mechanical influence into the minds and thoughts around it. Later, during the events of the Horus Heresy, so fast forward during the event of the Horus Heresy, this being would have cooperated with those wishing for its aid in the war by creating mechanical horrors in exchange for servitude, twisting the form of tanks, void ships and titans, as well as creating new mechanical machines of war like the Soul Grinder and Defilers. This being would become accustomed in its new realm, slowly gaining power and dominion in its own pocket of the warp. Eventually, champions of other Chaos Gods would seek out this being to forge pacts with it, and they would learn of its name. Vashtorr the Arcavist. So if this theory is to be believed, then Vashtorr and the Dark Mechanicum could be a very dark, twisted mirror to the Void Dragon beneath Mars and the Mechanicus, much like how the Space Marines and the Chaos Space Marines are also a mirror of each other, and they all derive from the same source, being the Emperor. Vashtorr is currently seeking out lost relics dating as far back as the War in Heaven, and the only way of him truly knowing about these arcane devices is if he had interacted with them before. The lock-in key could be a device of ancient Necron technology. There could be something within the lock that could potentially allow, Vashtorr to fully recover and reuniting with itself, with that of the Void Dragon, and become a full C'tan once more, and is just using Abaddon to help him reach these goals. Now, if this was true, the might of a full C'tan returning to the galaxy would bring utter ruin and devastation to all factions. He would unleash his mechanical horrors across the galaxy and take over existing tech-based weapons and systems and turn them upon their former users. The Necrons might be spared, however it depends on if Vashtorr, being a C'tan god, still holds a grudge against them for the Necrons turning on him and the other C'tan during the events of the War in Heaven. If so, then no one will be spared his wrath, and the fate of the galaxy would be doomed. So let me know of your thoughts about this crazy little theory of mine down in the comments below. It is a bit of a shorter one, but it's an idea that I sort of pieced together in my head, and I thought, well, what if Vashtorr is actually not a Chaos God? Because it doesn't seem like he is fully Chaos, you know, just the way that he acts. And he's very independent, he's quite neutral. The fact that he has this crazy power over technology and weapons and all kind of mechanical stuff like that. And it does have a bit of a plausible link to Necrons and that sort of thing, especially with, you know, him looking for all these lost and very, very powerful artifacts, which the Necrons had at one point. I mean, even look at the, I forget the proper name of it, but it's the Augury, I believe it is. There was a Necron device that had a live map of the entire galaxy. And you could just press on a star and boop, it would disappear. But in reality, it would actually explode. And that's one of the more tamer devices that the Necrons kept. The rest they destroyed. So what the heck could they have actually had back in the height of the war in heaven, like, no one really knows, but if that was like the lesser devices that they had, oh boy, if the lock and key leads to something of that sort of power scale, then yeah, we're all doomed. We're all doomed. But that's if he is a Catan, which I believe he is. So if you enjoy this video, as always, then let me know with a like, and subscribe if you're new. Thank you if you are new and reach all the way to the end of the video. That's much appreciated. I do have a little bell icon which you can click if you like. You don't have to. I tend to post theory videos every other Thursday and painting guides every Sunday, depending on sort of situations and stuff like that at home and work and bits and pieces, but I do try and keep it regular as best I can. So with all that out the way with, stay safe, stay beautiful, and we'll see you all next time.